Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday. It's February 19th, 2021. And this is our weekly video, and we're going to take a look back and see how things went over on eBay last week in the Asian art and Chinese and Japanese categories. What things did over at Katawiki, things that are coming up. There's some auctions on Live Auctioneers and Valuable I want to talk about this week that are particularly interesting. And we did this week get around to uploading those catalogs I'd mentioned from J&J Lally in New York, and they've been added here to the bookcase in the reference section. Those you all know how to get there, but if you don't know, if you're new to this, new to Bidamount.com, you haven't used the site yet, you come to the home page and you scroll down to the famous black box. Here it is. And the link to the free auction catalogs and books and so forth is right here. You click it, it brings you over here. And right now there are 637 past auction catalogs, exhibition catalogs, and so forth, including the aforementioned examples from Jim Lally in New York. Jim Lally is a great deal. I've mentioned him before. He was a Sotheby's guy, opened up his own place in the city 20, 30 years ago. He lectures. We've included his lectures on the website. He does great things. And he's got a bunch of very fine catalogs of exhibits he's done, exhibit and sales from some of the best collections around. You often see his gallery provenanced in Sotheby's auctions. And one of the sales that's coming up this week, so check them out. There's a couple of very good ones on scholars' objects, Buddhist carvings, heads. His photography is excellent. His scholarship is amazing, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot if you take the time to read these. You can read them on your phone and go through them. This is the one from last year's exhibition that he managed to do in 2020, even with everything going on with the influenza virus that we're dealing with. Art for the Chinese literati, and it is just a great catalog, beautifully put together. Superb photography. He does there's a good write-up at the beginning and so forth. So you want to check that out. All right. But one of the things that was really interesting was that one of his catalogs. He did here on this archaic Chinese bronzes from 2014. We mentioned it last week. And it's the Shapiro collection. And coming up next month at Christie's is this, it's a small catalog, but in it is this amazing Shang dynasty wine vessel. And this is one of only a few known in the world. I think there's 4 or 5 of them or something. It's a bronze wine pourer that came originally from this collection, the Lubitsch's collection. And this is Lubitsch's Gong, or Gong, they call them. It's an unbelievably rare piece, heavily patented. Mr. Lubitsch's lived in China between 1945 and 1950. He worked in the intelligence community. He was an American, but he was raised in Great Britain. He was a huge fan of the arts. He came from a family that was interested in art. They're actually, I think his whole family were mostly scientists, but they were very interested in artwork and so forth. He was in China and took advantage of it and built up some amazing stuff in his collection, Qing porcelains and everything else. He sold most of it off back in I think it was in the 80s, late 70s. But among the things he sold was this, and this is one of the rarest bronzes from the Shang dynasty there's a handful of them, and it's a combination of creatures. It's part tiger and part owl. And here's the owl's head here and so forth. And there's a very long write-up on it, and they show lots of the other examples of known pieces. And this one is probably among the best of all the ones that are known. It's going to be sold, I think the estimate on it is around $6 to $8 million US. It's going to be in New York, and we're going to cover it. The other catalogs have not been posted yet on Christie's or Sotheby's, but they did get this one up early, and you want to check it out. If you're interested in bronzes, get the catalog and read it. Read the information that's put in there. The write-up was done by Mr. Mowry. He was the head of the Sackler at Harvard University for many years. He's a brilliant guy. He consults with Christie's now, and well worth reading. That's all I can say. So check that catalog out this weekend when you have a few minutes. The photography is amazing, and as you know, if you double click on the screen, You can zoom in the pictures. You come up here to the little plus sign. You can zoom in even more. And it gives you a chance to really examine patinas on ancient bronzes to get a sense of what they should look like. And you'll quickly see they're very different than the copies and fakes roaming around. Now, be aware that once this sale takes place, I suspect the market is going to be flooded with copies of these turning up in auction houses all over the place. None of them are going to be real. I'm just going to say it. All right, they're not going to be real. There are only literally a handful of these known, and they are all in institutions except for this one, as far as I know. Okay, so anyway, it's a fabulous Shang Dynasty example, and I hope you take the time to read up on it. Okay, and this was another one of Mr. Lally's catalogs. There's a bunch of them. We started to put them up, and I thought there's the one that he did on the Shapiro collection, who bought the bronze from Lubish's catalog collection when it sold years ago. All right, just a little look at that. Look ahead. It's good stuff. All right, now over on Live Auctioneers, there's some things coming up. One of the things that caught my eye this week is this, and these are not particularly rare things. They're not worth an enormous amount of money, but absolutely lovely. And the bowl on the right is, of course, a later Ming Dynasty bowl. It's hit everything but the lottery. It's got a lot of repairs to it, and it's not the major focus of interest here. It's this. This is a really nice, they've dated it Yuan to Ming. I believe it to be Ming, but it's a wonderful little sort of Zijiao white glazed stoneware pot with a very nicely done mask handle on the end. Get to the details. So there's a picture of the bottom of it. There's another shot. There it is, the mask. A lovely, lovely example. And the estimate on it is quite reasonable, 450 to 900 euros. It's going to be at the Jaeger sale over in the Netherlands in about 12 days. And if you like early pottery, you want to check that piece out because it's beautifully done. You'll notice that the way the foot rim and so forth is very, very well done. And that's much more typical of Ming pots than it is Yuan Dynasty pots, I think. But regardless, it's an early example and wonderfully done with a reasonable estimate. So check it out. It's about 8 inches tall, or 6 or 7 inches tall, as I recall. Nice looking thing. And then on to this wonderful big, this is a whopper of a piece of Satsuma. This thing is 22 inches tall. It is beautifully done with all the immortals running around the outside of it. Nicely done gilding all the way in the mark on the bottom. Looks like a Mizan mark. Satsuma Mizan studio mark, and it's estimated at $1,000 to $1,200 U.S. This is down at the Charleston Estate Auctions in South Carolina has this. The estimate is very low, $1,000 to $1,200. It's got 9 days to go. It's up to 710. Expected to bring 2,000 to 3,000 anyway. But it is a heck of a nice piece of Satsuma. If you're a Satsuma buyer, you want to look at this because it's unusually large, beautifully done, and it's got a good signature on the bottom. So check that out. And then on to this. This is up in Maine at Thomaston Place Auction Gallery, the Kaja Vayu's auction house. He's been there forever. He handles a lot of good estates up in Maine. And this is, he doesn't know a huge amount about Chinese art because he sort of miscatalogued this. He called it architectural paintings. And I took a good look at them. And what these actually are is they're scenes of porcelain production. And if you're a porcelain buyer, this is a pretty interesting bit of subject matter. There's two of them. They're gouaches on paper. They were probably done between 1800 and 1820. Very nice examples. And here you see some people over here. They look like they're decorating. And there's a fellow over here that looks like the accountant or the bookkeeper doing inventory. And then there are several examples outside drying, green pieces drying in the sun and so forth. And here they are. Just interesting subject matter. So if you're interested in the history of porcelain making in China, and especially around this time period, you might want to chase these paintings down. And lately we've seen these can go fairly reasonably. This pair of paintings, and they're framed, are estimated at $700 to $900 U.S. with a $250 opening bid. The auction is next weekend. Okay, it is on February 27th. Register online. The folks up at Thomaston Place are very nice. They're very cooperative. They'll work with you, and it's a good auction house. I recommend them. And chase those paintings down. If you end up paying $800 a piece for them, that's okay. They're very, very nice and unusual, and of course, a subject matter that we all like. So it's got a lot going for it. And then this is a nice pair of Famille Rose goo form vases that are being sold. It's a pair. These are coming up in a few days down at, I think this is Freeman's is having these, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, no, Freeman's. Freeman's has those. And then over to this. This is over at Thomaston Place as well, up in Maine. I wanted to share this with you. Chinese made a lot of boxes of pigskin. It was a popular covering. But every once in a while, you'll come across one that's been decorated beautifully. This is a beautifully decorated pigskin box. It has lovely big brass handles on the ends. It's got ladies along the balustrade, ladies in a courtyard setting at the top. It's nicely decorated, very underappreciated. These boxes were typically done between 1875, 1880, and 1910, somewhere in there. But this is a nice one. It's got its original liner in it, which is unusual. Usually that blue liner is long gone. And it's a heck of a nice box. And these are pretty good size. This one is 12 by 27 by 18, so it is substantial, but it's all hand decorated, and it's decorated on pigskin with a $600 to $800 estimate and a $250 opening bid. And I bet someone is going to buy that box for under $500. It's a nice box. So if you like interesting crafts from China, things that were exported to the West, this is a nice thing. And then over here to this, a beautiful pair. These are about 18 inches tall, Famille Rose, but I love the exteriors because you notice what they did was they did a vase and a vase on each of them. Okay, just very interestingly done. And this is top quality Famille Rose decoration using copious amounts of gilding on the ground. Beautiful pair of vases, bright colors, strong colors, circa 1840 or so. Lovely Cantonese type workmanship. And but I love the fact that they use double vases on the outside. And here's a side shot of them. There's the tops, the bottoms, very typical of the period. And here's the other side with the vase and scholar's table and other precious objects and so forth. These are really nice. And they're estimated at 2,000 to 4,000 euros. This is a sale over. I believe this is a sale in the Netherlands as well. This is. But they're 18 inches tall, and they look to be in very, very good condition. As always, get a condition report, but they are 18 inches tall, and they are lovely, lovely looking vases. And then over here to this, back to a very interesting rug, Central Asian rug, Afghan region, but absolutely lovely bit of a Turkoman rug. And this is a techie carpet that's been actually cut down. It's missing probably about 6 feet of it. It's 6 feet wide and around 3.5 or 4 feet tall, something like that. But this is a very early carpet fragment, mid-19th century or earlier, which is very, very early for Turkoman things. So if you're an Asian tribal textile collector, you want to check this out. This is a very nice old fragment, beautifully done. It would be spectacular hanging on a wall because it's big. But just luscious colors, top quality decoration, and I love Turkoman things. So you're going to be hearing about them, and I hope you don't mind. I like rugs in particular because I think they're grossly overlooked. All right, and in that same vein, if you are a rug lover, Asian rugs, Persian rugs, Hinman's has this coming up with, I think, a ridiculously low estimate. It's a beautiful, they're called bijars, and these are woven in northwest Persia, northwest Iran, among the Kurdish community. And they're infamously durable. They are in Iran and around the world, they're known as iron rugs because the way they tie the wefts and warps, they're double wefted one over the other. Very dense, very strong, very compact. They use great colors. This rug is around 4.5 feet wide and about 9 feet long. But it's just visually a spectacularly attractive rug. It should bring $3,000 to $5,000, I think, but they've got a low estimate on it, and you might get a bargain on your hands. It was woven around, they say circa 1900. I think it was woven a little before that, because these rugs, let's take a look at the foundation here if we can get to it. I believe this is a wool-on-wool foundation rug. And if it is, it's probably pre-1900 generally. All right, but anyway, it's a wonderful carpet. If you like carpets, you're interested in putting a rug in your home, Persian rugs in your house are great. I urge you to get them because right now antique Persian rugs are a relative bargain. They've gone down in price over the last 20 years, and now that I think people are eventually going to start to appreciate them again. So, if you like rugs, I urge you to start buying them now, because they are probably going to go back up in price. All right, now on to this. This sold last week, a wonderful Kangxi dish. I think it was around 10 or so, or 11 inches in diameter, but beautifully decorated with the basket of flowers in the center. This very, very bright green outer border, and these wonderful flowers and rue heads running around the outside of it. Just a great example. And it ended up selling for $1,200, which I don't think was unreasonable. Yeah, it was 10.75 inches in diameter, just a hair under 11 inches. It had been through Christie's export sale in 2014 and had been originally sold by the Ralph M. Chait Gallery. Always read the provenances on these when you see them, because sometimes there are things that went through the major auction house. And these were sold by Millet Brothers down in New Jersey. They are a wonderful auction house. They do a very good job. I've done business with them years ago, and they're excellent people to deal with. And $1,200, I assume, plus the buyer's premium, so figuring it in at around $1,500, but a stellar example and in good condition. And then on to this, the Japanese Arita buyers out there. Somebody I think got a wonderful buy. This plate has been repaired, but if anybody took a look at this for Arita buyer, check out the size. This thing was 58 centimeters in diameter, so basically it was a 23-inch charger. Massive piece of 17th century Arita, done of course in the Wan Li style, but very nice quality, absolutely splendid quality. I think I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. It's got a repair in it. It does. It's got a staple and it's been banged around, but what a beast of a plate. And I think 300 was an absolute steal for this. An absolute steal. 320 pounds plus the buyer's premium, so around $400. It's going to cost you more to ship it, actually, than the piece cost if you're in the United States. And this was over at Capitol Lumart in Italy. And but a lovely piece of Arita, and you don't see chargers this size very often. They typically max out at about 17 or 18 inches, so that was a beast of a plate. And then over here to this was at Carlo Bondi's sale. This just closed this morning. It sold for $70. That flambe vase I pointed out, I thought it was so lovely. I thought the estimate was a bargain. Apparently so did everybody else. It ended up selling for 1,700 euros plus the premium, so around $2,100, which is fine still. It's a heck of a pretty Mei-Ping vase. Beautiful glaze on that. Absolutely love it. And then they also sold that pair of handsome Celadon ground Famille Rose vases that we talked about a few weeks ago. I thought the estimate was perfectly reasonable. Wonderful condition, beautiful gilding throughout. The whole piece was just pristine. And back when we originally talked about it, I had mentioned, I believe, that this is the kind of thing that can really drive the price, is that it was in such great condition all over. Look at the gilding everywhere. It was like almost like the day it was made. Very, very pristine, that nice ruffled rim top on it. And so a lot of people like this vase, apparently. It ended up selling for 1,500 euros plus the buyer's premium, so around $18,000 or $19,000. But these were big. These were almost 3 feet tall each. About 34 inches, 33 and a half inches tall, 87 centimeters. So these are great big ones. They're very unusual in that size, and even more unusual in that condition, because these vases get cleaned. They're usually in big houses. People don't pay a heck of a lot of attention to them, especially 100 years ago. They'd clean them with all kinds of nasty stuff to keep them clean, and they often did more harm than good. These were meticulously cared for throughout their lives, and in the end, they were still in beautiful shape. So I hope one of you bought these. I thought these were just elegant as can be. All right, now let's wander over and see what happened on eBay last week. There were some good results last week. Some prices were very, very strong. And we're going to start here with that nice silver metallic thread robe. We talked about it. We thought $2,000 to $3,000. Well, it hit the other upper end of it at $3,000, and largely because it was in very, very good condition. It was in wonderful shape, and the colors were all good on it. There wasn't a lot of wear around the collar. Often the collars on these pieces up around here get very, very frayed, or they're very stained on the inside or something. And all the threads all look to be nice condition all the way around. We had a gold one a few weeks ago that brought about the same price in the end. That had gold thread. This was silver metallic, and $3,001. All right. I hope the guy won it by $1. That would be great. All right. And then we had this very nice carved Luohan with children carrying his this is Shaolu carrying his staff. He's carrying a child, and the other kids scrambling around his legs. And it's sort of a jolly face. I think they oiled this a little bit. I don't think I'm not a big fan of oiled wood. I think this thing got oiled a little bit for the photography. I would wipe most of it off. Won't hurt the piece at all. But very nice quality. When you look at these older wood carvings, always look at the little details like the eyes, the way the hands are done, the body position, the hands on his hips, the drapes of his clothing. Then you have this other little fellow sort of coming up, reaching up, trying to grab the flower, the peach, and so forth. Just a very nice carving. Here's a picture of the underside. Beautiful piece. Just absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely piece of bamboo. And a lot of people liked it. Ended up selling for $2,424. And this was Dr. Godfrog over in the UK in Manchester. He had this up, and he had this. This was really nice. Let's open this up. I was looking at how many bids they had. They had a lot of bids on this. This is that Zeton-looking root-carved brush pot. A very nice one. A lot of fakes of these around, but this one looked pretty good to me. The bottom of it looked good. It had nice natural warpage from drying out, and it had a nice old natural crack from drying. Central heat is brutal on brush pots. But nicely carved, nicely done. It looks like at the top it got chipped away at some point, and somebody stained it and oiled it and cleaned it up a little bit so it isn't quite so noticeable, and so forth. Nice looking brush pot though, and ended up selling for $2,887 for that. We featured that for 2 weeks. I thought it would do well, and I'm glad it did because that was a nice object. And then over here to this. Whoops. Trucks are going by this morning. I got the windows open here, even though it's 26 degrees out. Let the truck go by. There he goes, going down to the dock. All right, is this that Republic vase with the black birds on it, and had that 1930s mark that we talked about last week? But a beautifully done example, really, really lovely, very finely detailed birds all the way around. The base was nice. I like the way they did the trees and the branches and all this sort of thing. Here's the mark that was on it. That's a particular mark that turns up in 1930s and 40s, more so than earlier in the Republic. But a very nice example. A lot of people liked this vase. It ended up selling for just a hair under $7,000, $6,975. It was more than I thought. I was thinking $4,000 to $5,000. But the interest in higher end Republic vases seems to be growing and growing. And what people are starting to realize, too, about a lot of the porcelain that's on the market today, this is sort of typical of a Republican vase. But a lot of pieces are floating around today posing as Republican pieces, as we all know, or many of us know. They look like Qianlong examples. They look like Yongchen examples, and they're brand new. But what's been going on is that they've now just, over the last few years, they've gradually just, it's Republic. All right. And I remember back in the 70s and the 80s looking at things that were available here in New England. It was a lot of Chinese art. And you saw very little Republic porcelain done in 18th century imperial style. Late 19th century pieces, yes. But those are much easier to recognize because of the foot rims and the way the bodies are done and so forth. But the pieces today that are posing as Republican, if you see a piece that has, that's pristine, has a great looking Qianlong, Yongchen mark on it, even Daoguan or Taijing, if somebody's trying to peddle it as Republic, be extremely leery. All right, they did not produce that much porcelain in the Republic period, especially high quality porcelain, stuff that looks almost as good as imperial court porcelain. They didn't do it. The finances weren't there for it. And today they're making copies after copies after copies, flooding the market and trying to pass them off as Republic because Republic pieces are worth copying now because the prices have gone up so much. So be very leery when you see somebody assigning a Republic age to something, unless it's obviously a Republic form or type like this vase was. All right, now let's mosey on over to here. This was a nice little 18th century teapot with Amari colors in good condition. It had a little bit of a nibble here around the end of the spout, and it had a firing flaw there. But the decoration was simple. It was quite elegant. Here's a shot of the bottom of it. Very nicely done, Kang Shi. And somebody picked it up for $638. That was a nice piece. In both pieces, both sections, the lid and the body were pretty much perfect. He says both pieces perfect. It did have a little nibble out of the tip of the spout, but it was something that was obvious, and it may have been partially done at the time it was made. But anyway, this is from a seller over in Norwich in the UK. It was a nice thing. And then over here for this was Super Shrink, the silver dealer. This really great Ziwu pair, Ziwu set of tea set, nice repoussé work, beautiful condition. I love the beak form spout that they did. It's got its original ivory insulators in the handle, just an elegant looking thing. And the Ziwu is listed in the Adrian von Furst book, Silversmiths. People liked it, and the set and these three pieces ended up selling for $1,935. But as the seller says, it's very fine. This is very, very fine silver, and made mostly for Westerners in China at the time. And then over here to this, the bottle vase. It looks like a Kangxi vase. This brought a very strong price. The shape and style is very much like some transitional pieces you see and some Kangxi pieces you see. This was not a Kangxi piece. This was a late 19th century example with a Kangxi mark on it, with that foot rim and so forth. It is not Kangxi, but very attractive. But I think some people got a little excited maybe, and it went for $1,286. It's not insane. They didn't go completely crazy, but that's a strong price for that. And but it was good size. It was 46 centimeters in height, so it was 18 inches. So maybe I take that back. Maybe that's pretty reasonable for a pot that big, because that's an apple. Look how big that thing is. But anyway, it's a nice looking pot, and if it was Kangxi, it would have brought 15 or 20,000. But very attractive dragon on it. So I'm not going to say overpaid for it. I forgot how big the thing was. So I want to be fair. That 18 inches, that's probably fine. All right, now over here to this planter, jardiniere, Femi June, late Qing dynasty, nicely decorated, very simple, very elegant, good-looking colors on it. Here's a side shot of it, beautiful greens, that nice egg yolk yellow going around it. The bottom of it was completely unglazed. This was a planter, of course, and originally, that hole is original to this. This wasn't a lamp. Somebody took it and lamped it. That was a natural drain hole that was put in at the time it was made, and it probably had an under tray to it, a little dish that sat under it that matched the piece, and it was for plants, and most likely it was done as part of a pair. Anyway, the pot itself just brought $510, which isn't bad. All right, that's a nice looking thing. Often you see these with the under trays. We've had them on here. When they have the under trays and it's a pair, they can bring 2,000 or 3,000. So a few months ago, I think some of you may recall, wasn't there one that brought 4,000? Something like that. It was wildly decorated, but $4,400 or something, as I recall. Anyway, very nice. And then on to this Quanjiang pair of sleeve vases. These had been actually sold on eBay before a few weeks ago, and they ended up selling for about $11,000. I suspect the seller had trouble with the buyer not paying his bill. So we just relisted them, and the second time around they brought just about exactly the same amount of money. Nice Quanjiangware things with these brilliant red birds, script and so forth, nice coloration, and they sold for $10,810. So it's a couple of $100 less than they brought the first time around, but hopefully the buyer paid for them. This was from a seller down in Pleasantville, New York. Bench Dog 100. That's not a name I know, but at any rate, I think in the listing he said he'd owned them for a number of years and he just decided to sell them, which probably was true. All right, now on to this nice Daosai and underglazed blue footed hot food pot. This was a good one. These turn up fairly often. They used to be very common back in the 70s and 80s. You'd see these all the time in antique shops. Antique dealers loved them because they went well with Western furniture. They looked nice on a table. They even did cups and bowls like this. And this was a fairly well-known pattern. And they used to sell them for, back then they would sell them for $150 to $250, typically somewhere around there. It's got this sort of quasi-cracked ice pattern with plum blossoms and bamboo leaves going around the top and so forth. And this time around, it brought $768. But a very attractive one. And this was from a seller over in Stockholm, Sweden. It's another seller I've never seen before. Planet Trumsab. I don't know what that is. Plain Trumsab? Whatever. Anyway, it was a nice piece. And then on to this European market China trade export teapot. I think I did mention this last week with the banners and so forth. Nicely done, nice enamels, very European looking. And somebody got a heck of a good buy for this. $221. As I've said a million times, leave a bid. You should never know. I really urge people to do that all the time, as you know, because this is what happens. And every once in a while, something slips through, and it's a great buy. This pot was looked to be in very, very nice condition. 18th century, circa 1770, 1780, somewhere in there. And I think somebody got a good buy out of that. And then over here to this. This was very attractive. This seller was interesting. They had one plate that was perfect, and this was a Kangxi period place, Kangxi Amari dish. I thought it was very nice, very pretty. It's a well-known pattern that they did in these. And somebody picked it up for 165 euros plus shipping, which was absolutely fine. We've seen these in the past. They sell for 300, 350. The estimate on this was reasonable, 150 to 200 euros. The seller nailed it right in the middle. You got it. And then what was interesting was that then the same seller had four of these up. And what he did was he grouped these because one of them had a hairline, one of them had a chip, the nicks and so forth. So he sold them as a group, four of them. And somebody bought all four for 190 euros. And if you're going to hang a plate on a wall and you're not an absolute fanatic about condition, and you'd like to have a very pretty display, this is the way to buy them. You get all four. Whoever bought them paid about 50 euros, 50 euros a piece for them, plus a little bit of shipping. And look what you got. And these were okay size. These were 9 or 10 inches, as I recall, 22 centimeters. So okay, about 8 inches in diameter, but very attractive for a reasonable price. All right. And then over to this was that okimono, this bronze kimono. We actually featured this. I thought this was a lovely one. But just a hint to the seller, you should have shot this against a gray background. Shooting something that dark against a black background makes it very hard for the camera's light sensors to even find the object, because I could tell this was a nicely cast bronze. Unfortunately, the details didn't really come through very well. There's a good one of it. He's on his front paws with rocks, his tail's up in the air. And this was a nice size, too. It was a nice, desirable size. It was, 25 centimeters, so it was about 9 inches tall. It was a good size one. It wasn't a small okimono. And somebody picked this up for 280 euros. Okay, I featured it because I thought the estimate was ridiculously low, and it sold for below the low estimate. And this was a later Edo period, maybe early Meiji. It's very hard to tell all the time with those because they didn't suddenly make things differently once the Meiji period started right off the bat. Everybody didn't change gears. Same thing with Chinese porcelain. The people that were making Chinese porcelain during Guangxu's lifetime were still making porcelain 3 days after he died, and it all looked about the same. The styles weren't mandated to change with each emperor unless it was an order they placed. So styles can overlap, definitely. Anyway, this was a heck of a nice thing. And somebody, I think, got a great buy for 280 euros. If you're a Japanese bronze buyer out there and you got this, good on you. Nice going. And now a few things that are coming up this week. There's a bunch of things we have ready. This is something, if you're a Japanese pottery buyer, you want to check this. This isn't Satsuma, but it's sort of a Satsuma type pottery thing of a coiled elephant on the ground. He's got a little repair here on his trunk. But other than that, it looks fine. But I love the rustic enamels going around it and this lotus base. And there may have been something sitting on him at one point, possibly a little figure of some kind. But what an interesting piece of white glazed pottery. Absolutely lovely. And I love the sleepy-eyed elephant on here. They depicted them the same way in China. And right now, this thing, let's see, where is this right now? It's got a bid of 50 euros on it. It's up to 55. Next bid is 55 euros. It's got a 500 to 550 euro bid. There is a reserve on it. I don't know I don't think the reserve is probably too terribly high, but this is a very interesting piece of Japanese pottery. And if you're a Japanese pottery buyer, I think when was the last time you saw an animal form like this with these colors? And it is signed, is also inscribed from what I recall. It's a piece of seto. It is 25 inches at its widest, so it's just about 9 inches wide. It's a nice size object, nice piece of pottery. So if you're a Japanese buyer, check that out. It's over on Katawiki. And then this sold. I put this in because I thought it was a very, very nice buy. This beautiful little platter, 18th century export with flowers and vines and so forth, and this nice looking sort of quasi roux head little decoration around the outside. Very nice little plate, sweet little plate. It was, 15 inches, 20 inches, so it was about 8 inches long. Somebody picked it up for 87 euros. Very good. That was the way to do it. And then this big Femme Vert, late 19th century, maybe early 20th century. There's no hard and fast rule in it. But this thing was big. It was 45 centimeters, 18 inches tall, and somebody picked it up for €1,000. It had a very low estimate, 450 to 500 euros. I think that was very, very reasonable. And it ended up selling for about 1,000, which I don't think is crazy. It's Femme Vert, very nicely done. It was late 19th century, early 20th century possibly. They provided some very good images of it, nicely colored, and a good-looking pot. All right, Catawiki's been getting better and better stuff, you know. And if you don't have an account at Catawiki, go get one this weekend. Sign up and open an account there. They're quite easy to deal with. They do have a buyer's premium. Read through the rules and bid accordingly. That's all. Whenever you deal with a company that has a buyer's premium, don't worry about the buyer's premium, because everybody's dealing with it. So you're all on equal ground, and just come up with an end price you're willing to pay, and then include the buyer's premium in that amount, and go from there. All right, because everybody else is doing it, and they do sell a lot of stuff. I guess somebody's parked the truck in the wrong place. All right, and then on to this. This was a great little buy. It was a piece of quartz or fluorite, two maidens, sort of these pairings of Guanyin figures, very popular in the late Qing dynasty and in the early Republic period. This was a nice-looking pair on their own little stands, and somebody picked it up for €95. All right, and we've seen these many times sell on eBay for $200 or $300 just for a single. Here's a double, and somebody got a good buy. Somebody left a bid. Oh, the estimate was €200 to €300. There it is. Yeah. All right. So you want to check that out. You know, these kinds of things. If you like these little carvings, just leave a bid on it, and you might have a nice surprise in the mail after it closes. And then this comes up. This closes in a few days. Is this very nice Chinese silk hanging, beautifully done. This is the seller. I don't know. Rosati 978. Apparently they have a lot of feedback on eBay, so I suspect they've sold a lot of stuff. Come on, if you can get this thing to open. It won't open. Anyway, these hangings with the square panels above, then the rondelles separated by the waves hitting the rocks, and then this beautiful skirt across the bottom. Very typical of Qing 19th century Qing silks. It's up to $1,325, and in the end, you know, you figure it's probably going to go in at around $2,500 to $2,700. What is this? 44 by 70 inches, so it's almost 6 feet long. It's just a hair under 6 feet this way. That's a big one. It's not a 3-foot hanging. This is a great big hanging. This isn't a little hanging. It's a big one. 6 feet is pretty big for one of these. At any rate, picture that on the wall in your house. All right, and that's about it for now. We've got a bunch of things we'll add this week to the newsletter, and things that we find that are over on eBay and Catawiki, and see what we dig out this week for everybody. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet here on YouTube, please do give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, come over to Bidamount.com, join the site, join the forum, and so forth. All right. Oh, and by the way, this hanging has free shipping. Oh, it's coming from Ipswich, Mass. That's about 5 miles from where I am. Huh? All right. I don't know who that is, though. And Ipswich is we're famous for clams. If you heard of the Ipswich clam. Anyway, seafood. Have a great weekend, and thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. All right. We'll be back next week with another video. All right. Bye-bye. And we'll also be keeping track of the upcoming sales in March in New York. There's a whole bunch of sales. There's an Asia Week extravaganza coming up, and I'm real interested to see what they come up with this time around. And we'll be sharing that with everybody. All right. Have a good weekend. Stay warm. Bye-bye.